I would like to start by talking about your newest project, which was Sweetpea.
You guys need therapy. Yeah, Rhiannon.
She is a complex character.
What a complex character. I love that you love her. Honestly, I do too, but we're not supposed to. And I think that's what makes it so fun, isn't it? You kind of love to hate her and hate to love her kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, can you maybe talk about how you approach that character? Because you're absolutely correct in that, like, the actions are bad, yes, but there is an emotion that can be connected with, correct?
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's kind of the thing that drew me to the project in the first place, was being able to, I obviously love morally complex characters by now, but was the kind of creating someone that was so complex, that someone who, even though she is a serial killer and does bad things and we shouldn't root for her, obviously, you kind of do relate to her emotions and I suppose her motivations in a way. And when I first met Patrick Walters, who's one of our executive producers, he's the first person I met on the project, he sort of pitched it to me like Dexter-meets-Fleabag. So I'm going to make this show about a female serial killer, but it's going to be a comedy. It's like, already I'm in, or dark comedy, I think he said. And then we talked a lot about the differences between Dexter and Sweetpea. The main difference being that this is a young woman whose invisibility becomes her superpower. So as well as being this sort of dark comedy about murder, it's also this it's almost like a coming of age story. It's about finding your voice and standing up for yourself and forming your identity through that. And I thought that was actually, when you take away the murders, quite a sweet story. I love a dark comedy. I'd say like almost everything I've done has an element of comedy to it. I mean, Fallout, for example, there's, big heavy themes about the apocalypse. But it's also funny. And I think that humans, and especially British people, I will say, we have this quite dark sense of humor, and I think we often use humor as a coping mechanism, and I think it can help you move through grief, actually. We tend to be, we're quite a self-deprecating nation, and we kind of laugh about ourselves quite easily, and I think that you're going to cry harder if you've just laughed, and you're going to laugh harder if you've just cried. I think pacing-wise, that's how it goes in life. Like, you need to take a breath. You need to be able to laugh at yourself and sort of, I don't know, I guess cope with things as best you can. I think humor is a really healthy way to do that. That's my favorite genre to watch as well. So it's really fun to be able to be on the other side of that. I've always wanted to produce and direct and write and, always kept coming up with excuses as to why I wasn't going to do it. And then finally, the last couple of years I did. I went to film school and I directed a couple of shorts and I've written some things. And I produced shorts and I knew I wanted to do it on a larger scale, but I wanted to do it properly. I wanted to do it for a project that I really felt like I could contribute well. I didn't just want like a vanity project. Like, I really wanted to connect with that project and connect with that character. So I was really kind of just waiting for the right thing. And then when I met Patrick, he mentioned they were looking for an actor to play Rhiannon who might also be interested in taking on a producerial role. I think for them, it was very important. Rhiannon's in every single scene. In order to kind of get the audience to empathize with her, you really need to view the world through her eyes. Like, you have to be in her head. So it's important to them to have somebody whose only job was Rhiannon. His sole job was just making sure every line, every stage direction felt completely authentic. And that, I was like, I can do that. That I'm good at. I'm able to kind of like follow one through line. And also, gain experience in areas that I will hold my hands up and say, I don't know anything about budget. I don't know anything about, location scouting. There's like loads of gaps in my knowledge. And so it was sort of like the right thing for both of us, very mutually beneficial. I was on the project probably about 8 months before we started filming, maybe 8 to 10 months. What is time? When I signed on, we only had a pilot, which then obviously changed a million times. And by the time we started filming, we already have 4 episodes. And a lot of that was trying to map out, I guess, the really subtle sort of incremental changes in Rihanna and how we knew where we wanted her to end up. We sort of wanted her to end up where the books begin, in a way, treating this almost like a prequel to the books, you know, that they are very, very different. So we knew where we started, we knew where we ended, and we kind of need to figure out how to amp it up each episode just ever so slightly. So it was really great to be able to, I think actors really understand writing. I think a lot more than sometimes we're given credit for. I mean, we're taking words that are unfamiliar and kind of bringing them to life. And so it was really nice to be able to, I think for the writers to be able to write knowing who they were writing for, and for me to be able to then do my prep on the scenes knowing, well, hang on, I know that in episode 5, she's going to, you know, get this, or get, I don't want to spoil it, but get things out of her life. So what can I sprinkle in episode 2 or episode 3 that might be an interesting way of foreshadowing now? You know, not getting too confident too early, because I'm going to wait till we have that scene in episode 4. It's really, really good for me as someone who loves to do as much preparation as possible, like real A1 Virgo type over here. It's really nice to be able to have all the information to at my disposal, yeah? You know, with films, you know, you've got the whole script. You know what you're doing. It tends to be a shorter shoot, and you, not always, but sometimes, most of the time, get more prep time, you get more rehearsals. TV is like, you get the script the day before and you just do what you're told, and you don't always get the luxury of tons of prep time. And that's kind of why I love it as well, to be fair. Like, I quite like the spontaneous nature of it, and it's obviously, I'm clearly addicted to like chaos or some sort of like mania, because it's so incredibly adrenalizing, if that's the word. So I think it depends. I think it does depend. You know, Yellow Jackets, for example, we had no prep time at all. And I really learned a lot on that job about trusting the writers and just kind of changing the character in ways that are outside of your comfort zone of predictability. Sweetpea was very different. And very different shows, and maybe that shows, I'm not sure. I mean, she is the hardest, or the most challenging character I've ever played. And she's a serial killer, and it's really hard to... I'm not a serial killer, so it's hard to get into the mindset of one. I've also never really I'm never really overly concerned about the likability of my character. And I've also learned from Yellow Jackets and playing Jackie that you can never predict how the audience are going to respond. I've played likable, the characters that I thought were likable that everyone hates, and vice versa. So it wasn't that was concerning me. It was more like, I don't know, like how to justify some of her actions when they are just so unjustifiable. I was really struggling with that for a long time. And then it was, I did a lot of research into other actors who had played villains, and I spoke a lot to my friends and worked very closely with Ella Jones, our director, another Ella, and learned that you should never judge your character, which I already knew, but I am just a judgmental person, so it was hard not to, and she's doing such horrible things. And B, this was really, really crucial, but no bad guy thinks they're the bad guy. And it's so obvious now saying it out loud, but that really unlocked something for me, because it helped me connect with Rhiannon's truth, which is that it's not about the killing. In fact, I don't need to know why she kills, because she doesn't know why she kills. God, it seems so obvious I was saying it out loud. But actually, it was about feeling visible, and it was about empowerment. And for better or for worse, it's not my job to judge that. It's only my job to kind of connect with the truthfulness of that, find things about it that I can relate to, and then go with that. I'm very conscious of my mental health and other people's mental health all the time. It's pretty much like the main concern for me, and I always do get concerned about the safety and well-being of our crew, just generally, just working the hours that they work. And then you add things like this, like very heavy topics that can be triggering. It was something that we all talked about very early on in pre-production, how we were going to support the crew and the cast, and what resources we had free therapy sessions for anybody that wanted them, anonymous ones, obviously, and other resources people could access. And also, I think, strangely, we got so close as a casting crew. I don't think I've ever been so close to any production I've worked on. And I think that's because you do need that, what you just did, that like shaking it off. And like, my God, you're just like acting out trauma all the time. And I love my job, but also sometimes you're like, oh, wake up, energy, be happy. It's like, it's exhausting to be in that place all the time. And sometimes you do go home and you're just down, and it's hard. You kind of do need to like shake it off and find ways to relax and connect with people, especially playing such a lonely character. So we had a lot of fun. We played conkers in between pretty much every setup. It was very annoying for the producers. I guess I am a producer, but the less cool producers. Sweetpea. We just played a lot of games and like had a lot of fun, and it was really nice. It was a nice way to blow off steam. I think that's where self-awareness comes in, is like knowing ahead of time. You know, you train for a marathon, right? Well, you should. If you haven't, you're amazing, that you should. And it's kind of the same, like, I think, for shoots. If I'm going into a 6-month shoot where I'm playing someone who's going through a lot of grief, or who has got a lot of like anger in her body and a lot of rage and resentment, like I kind of want to know myself enough to know, okay, well, it's really important that I call a friend on my way home from work, or I don't isolate and I see friends on the weekends even though I'm like tired. And you know, what can I do that is like kind for myself and brings me back to me? I think having self-awareness is kind of first step to looking after yourself and protecting yourself, but not just in this industry, but for everyone all the time. I don't really have a problem watching myself, because I think I've been doing this long enough to be able to separate them now. And also now that actors do self-tapes, we watch ourselves all the time. It's not the same as when we used to just go in for auditions. So I don't really have an issue, but I couldn't give notes on the edit as objectively as I thought I could, because obviously I'm predominantly looking at my performance, because of course I am, we're humans. And so I wasn't really able to be as objective as I could. I had no issue watching it. I wasn't thinking of the project as a whole and the series as a whole. I was mostly like, I didn't believe that line. I didn't believe that moment, or like I picked that up weird. You know what I mean? Like I was just too self-conscious to do it. But it was an experience, especially, you know, I'm directing more now and seeing how like real professional editors do it, and not just like me on my laptop on like iMovie. It was definitely a learning process. I think in terms of producing, the thing that I had the most fun with was kind of sitting in on the conversations between Ella and Nick, who is our DP, and learning how they were visually mapping out the series. And there are so many things that I doubt most people would even notice when you're watching the show that should subconsciously influence how you feel when you're watching it, and how you feel about the characters, like lighting tricks, the introduction of the color red in the second half of the series and how red is used. It's really fascinating. It's so clever. I like a lot.